What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Therapy on Two Wheels. Today we're going to be talking about lifestyle changes after a concussion. Let's jump in. So I made another video previously about dealing with post-concussion syndrome, which is typically what you have right after you have some type of brain injury, specifically a concussion, which is something that I've dealt with myself. And for a lot of people, post-concussion syndrome will last from anywhere from a few weeks to a few months. In some cases, like with myself, it can last years and there can be long-lasting effects. So you might not have all of those symptoms going away, at least not completely. And that's kind of what it's been like for me. You know, a lot of the stuff that I've dealt with, the big ones for me were like the headaches and nausea. That's mostly gone, but I do still deal with those occasionally. Same thing for sensitivity to light and sound. So I wanted to create another video for those that are still dealing with some of these issues, some of these symptoms from having a brain injury and dealing with it long term. Like, what are the lifestyle changes that you're probably going to experience? What can you expect? And then I'm just going to give you some tips on things that I've done to help go through those changes and make it to where it's not such a kind of daunting experience to have to deal with some of these symptoms possibly for the rest of your life. So just want to jump in first and say that it will take time for your brain to heal. If you're expecting everything to be fully functional and back to normal after a week after having a brain injury, it's probably not going to happen. You know, again, this could take weeks, months, even years for you to recover from a brain injury. And a lot of that does depend on how severe it is as well, to determine if you're going to have some of those long-lasting effects. Now, the first thing I would say is probably the biggest lifestyle change for me was doing less intense physical activities. I was a very active person growing up, and kind of in my early adulthood, I have a bachelor's degree in exercise science. I did personal training, ran my own business for about 6 years. So working out and physical activity were a big part of my life. That was my stress reliever. That was my enjoyment, my hobby. You know, I did a lot of races and competitions and things like that, and that's what I really enjoyed. So after having a brain injury, that changed dramatically. Like, I couldn't do any more of those races or competitions, couldn't do heavy lifting, I couldn't do basically anything that would get my heart rate above about 120, 130 without feeling like I was going to pass out. So for me, that was the biggest adjustment that I had to make in my life. And what it did was try to find other things that I can enjoy as hobbies, as things, as stress relievers. So I tried a lot of different things. I tried woodworking, I tried hiking. One of the things that I eventually really enjoyed that I got into was riding electric bikes. And that was probably about 6 years ago at this point now. And started riding just, you know, the 20 mile per hour, 28 mile per hour electric bikes. Eventually wanted to go a little bit faster because that's just kind of been my nature. I always want to progress, always want to get better at things. So I ended up getting one of those Surons, and it's like a 45, 50 mile per hour electric dirt bike. And then from there, you know, I did that for about a year. I wanted to start riding on road and going out on little adventures. So got my motorcycle license, got my first street bike. And yeah, I've been riding over 3 years now on motorcycles, and can't imagine not doing this. You know, I love doing motorcycling, but that was one of those things that it's still somewhat of a physical exercise. It is mentally and physically can be draining, especially if you're doing it for long periods of time, and something that I can do almost at any point in time. You know, with different bikes, I can go off-roading, I can go long trips, I can, you know, go to just short trips to the grocery store, whatever it is, and I still get enjoyment every time that I hop on the bike. So for me, finding another hobby was probably one of the biggest challenges for me, and it took years to find something that I truly love. Another big adjustment that you're probably going to have to make in your life, if you still deal with issues with loud noises or with sensitivity to light, that's something that I still deal with kind of minimally, but I still do have problems. If I go to like a concert, I can't be there for more than 5 minutes without getting a headache and feeling like nauseous. A lot of that's like the loud bass and stuff too. So I'll bring earplugs if I ever do have to go to some of those things. I try to avoid them for the most part now. but earplugs are hugely beneficial when you're trying to decrease the sound. You know, you might not be able to have a full-on conversation with the person next to you. It's one of the downsides to it, but it prevents you from having a lot of those post-concussion syndrome symptoms from just going to something that you should be enjoying in your life, like a concert or a sporting event or something where there's a lot of loud noises. Same thing goes for the sensitivity to light. You know, a lot of things you can wear sunglasses for, especially if you're outside, and I would suggest that even if you're going to be in shady areas, there's still reflections from the sun off of things, and you know, depending on the angle of the sun, you still might get a lot of sun kind of exposure in your eyes. And so that was one thing. I didn't usually wear sunglasses a whole lot, but now I wear those pretty much everywhere that I go. You know, even inside sometimes I don't typically wear my sunglasses, but if I'm somewhere where there's really bright lights, you know, even in my home, the home that we just moved into has kind of the dimmer lights, so a lot of times I don't have the lights all the way up as high as they can go. It's kind of in the middle, or especially if it's at nighttime, I'll put them a lot lower, just because it irritates my eyes. It makes me feel nauseous. It gives me headaches just being in those bright light areas or situations. So sunglasses really help, especially if you're outside. If you're inside, try to be somewhere where it's a little bit darker. You know, if you do wear glasses, maybe you can get some tinted glasses as well. That might help decrease that sensitivity, but that's just something that I do still deal with. It's not as bad as it was before, for sure, but still something that anywhere I go, it's a consideration. With those headaches, which is something that I still do get, not very often, but I still do get them occasionally. With, ooh, there's a snake right there, nice. With the headaches, you need to keep yourself hydrated. Like, one of the first signs of dehydration is thirst. The second is usually a headache. So if you get to that point where you are getting a headache because you're dehydrated, like, just always have water on hand. I take a water bottle pretty much everywhere that I go, and make sure that I'm constantly either sipping on it, or, you know, in between my rides, I'll stop every 30-45 minutes or so and just take a swig of water. So keep yourself hydrated. That's going to prevent you from getting a headache naturally, which you have post-concussion syndrome, or you've dealt with a traumatic brain injury, you're more likely to get frequent headaches. I know a couple other people that have gone through the same thing. They have frequent headaches as well. So make sure you stay hydrated. That's one thing that you can help prevent from even getting to that point of getting a headache and then having your brain injury make it worse. One of the other ones that's really tough that a lot of people struggle with, and this partially depends on the severity of your brain injury, is going to be memory loss. You know, right after my brain injury, I didn't feel like there was that much, you know, within the first day or two, but once I started talking more to my family and friends and things like that, and they would talk about things that we had done in the past, there was just things that I don't remember at all. You know, and there's obviously a certain limited amount of space in your brain, so sometimes your brain just kind of compartmentalizes or pushes things way back. But there was things that I should have remembered that weren't even that long ago that were just gone from my memory. Now, some of those things did come back over time, but and some of them also are not really memories. It's almost a memory of somebody telling you about that event, so your brain is kind of making it up as you go. That's kind of a weird thing as well. But with your memory, you know, long-term memory might never come back. A lot of people, it just takes time for some of those memories to come back. For others, those things are just gone permanently. And same thing with short-term memory. That's one of the ones that I still deal with right now, is memory recollection of, you know, things that were just mentioned to me. It could be, you know, if I'm talking like I am right now and I'm trying to think of a word and it's there, I can almost picture the word, but I just can't say it because it's just not coming to the front of my brain. Little quail. You know, it's just not coming to the front of my brain, so it can be a frustrating experience. And there's sometimes where I'm thinking of words, it's just not coming to me. Just move on. Either think of another word or just start talking about something else. Oh, another snake right there. That's a bigger one. That was a rattlesnake. With a brain injury, you're also going to have emotional ups and downs. You know, I mentioned before that you have, you know, more irritability, probably more depression, especially if you are, you know, an athlete, and that's all you know and that's all you do, and you can't do that anymore. It can be a really frustrating experience for a lot of people. So for those emotional ups and downs, just try to take it a day at a time. Hopefully you have some type of support system, whether that's your family, a spouse, your friends, that are going to kind of help you through that transitional period, because it can be a little difficult. You're going to be a little bit more short-tempered. Things that normally wouldn't aggravate you probably do now. Just more self-awareness is really helpful as you're continuing to live with that type of issue, because your brain essentially changes. If you're smacking your brain into the ground, it's probably not going to be exactly the same as it was before. So for me, just kind of self-awareness and taking things a little bit slower. Meditation is really helpful for me as well, kind of even out my mood, so I'm not so low or so depressed or so angry and mad at certain periods of time. It's just kind of in the middle, and that takes time. That takes work as well, and that self-awareness of just understanding, hey, I'm about to get mad or I'm about to get sad, and maybe doing something that makes you happy, or put yourself in a less stressful environment if you're about to get mad. Just working with those limitations that you now have after having your brain injury. And the last thing I'll say too, that I've kind of taken away from my brain injury 6 years ago, is just trying to stay positive. It can be difficult, but for me, doing things like this where I'm making motorcycle videos and just helping other people out that either might be new to motorcycling, and now just starting to make some other videos for things that I do have knowledge in or have experienced in my life, that's what helps me. That's what helps me stay positive, is to know that other people have gone through the same things that either I've gone through, or maybe they're going through them right at this time now. And yeah, that's why I wanted to make some of these videos, especially about concussions. If you have questions about it, if you've gone through a concussion or some type of brain injury, and either it's you, a family member, a friend, whoever it is, feel free to comment down below. More than happy to give you my input. Again, I'm not a medical professional by any means, but it's something that I've dealt with and kind of come up with some tips and tricks over time. So if you like this video, hit the like button, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell if you want to see some of these videos in the future, and I'll see you all in the next one.